Good morning, dear students, and welcome to the third part of our chapter on animal classification. If you remember, in our last class, we had a look at the chart on animal classification, and I told you how exactly to read the animal classification. So, this is just a reminder for you to understand where we had last finished off the chapter. So, in today's lecture, we will be looking at each of the phylum. The phylum is shown in the purple boxes on the extreme right hand side of the chart. So, we will be looking at Porifera, Cnidaria, Platyhelminthes, Astermantis, Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, Hermicordata and Chordata. So we have to complete this much in today's chapter. So we begin with our very first phylum, which is phylum Porifera. The pictures that you see over here are of the different animals which belong to this phylum. These animals are with the simplest body plan, and they are usually known by the word sponges. They are called as sponges. Now they bear numerous pores on their body. You will see that there are a number of holes which are present on the body, and these holes are called as ostia, or they are called as oscula. These animals are usually aquatic. They are found in water. They can be found in marine water, or they can be found in fresh water. That is, they are found in salty water or they are found in fresh water. These animals have asymmetrical body. As we discussed last time, what is the meaning of asymmetrical body? So if you look at the picture, none of these animals can be divided into equal parts. So these animals have asymmetrical body. These animals have special types of cells which are called as collar cells. If you have a look at any of these pictures, at the circular opening, you will see that there is a collar like structure which is present, a hard structure which is present. So these animals have special types of cells which are called as collar cells. These animals are always attached to a substratum. So you will never find these animals living on their own. They are always found attached, living on something else, and hence they do not show locomotion. You will not find that the sponges are moving from one place to another. They are always attached onto something else and are always present in one particular place. So that is the reason they are also referred to as sedentary animals. They are called as sedentary animals. Their spongy body is supported by spiny fibers. Okay, so if you try to touch a sponge, it will be very prickly. It is very spiny, and these spines are made up of calcium carbonate or of silica. Okay, so the spines, the spiny body of the animals belonging to Porifera, the spines are made up of either calcium carbonate or of silica. These animals feed upon smaller organisms which they take into their body along with the water. So as I said earlier, these animals are present inside the water. They are aquatic animals. So what will they eat? They will eat smaller animals which are found in the water. And how do they take that food into their body? They simply take that food into their body along with the water. And then what happens is that the water is taken out through the ostia and given out through the oscula. So the animal which they eat remains in the body, and the excessive water which has entered into their body, that comes out through the ostia and the oscula. These animals reproduce either by budding, which is a sexual method, or it can also regenerate by sexual method. So besides they have a very good ability of regeneration. Means if a sponge is cut into pieces, each of those pieces will grow into a new organism. So they have the very good ability of regeneration. So the examples of the animals which are found in this particular phylum are cyclin, sponge bath, the sponge which is used during bathing, then Hyalonema, and one more animal, one more example which is given in your textbook, Euplectella. The last one, Euplectella. Okay, so please remember that you have to study these names by heart. It might not be easy to pronounce it, but you have to at least learn the spelling so that you can easily write it during your exams. The next phylum we look at is phylum Cnidaria, or it is also called as Coelenterata. If you look at the spelling in your textbook, it is mentioned as Coelenterata. The O in it is silent, so you don't call it as Coelenterata, it is called as Coelenterata. Okay, so you can either write it as phylum Coelenterata or Cnidaria. Now, the body of the animals which are present in this particular phylum is in the form of a cylinder. It is cylindrical, or you can say it is like a umbrella shaped animal. It looks like a umbrella. If you have a look at the different pictures that I've put in over here of these animals, they are in the form of a cylinder, or you can say like an umbrella. Now, if it is cylindrical, if the animals are cylindrical in shape, they are called as polyps. And if the animals looks like an umbrella, they are called as medusa. Okay, so the animals which are present under Cnidaria, they can either be called as polyps, which means a cylinder, or medusa, which means like a umbrella. Now, most of the animals in this particular phylum are marine, that is, they are present in salty water. Only a very few of them are present, live in fresh water. The body of these animals are radial symmetrical, or they can be, and they are diploblastic. What is the meaning of radial symmetry? What is the meaning of diploblastic? This was already done in your previous lecture. If you have any confusion, you can go back to those previous lectures and you can go through the terms radial symmetry, diploblastic, triploblastic. So all that you can go back to it. So the body, as I said, body of these animals is of radial symmetry and they are diploblastic. Now they have special tentacles which are present around their mouth. These tentacles are used for capturing the prey, and there are special organs which are present on the tentacles which are called as cnidoblast. These cnidoblasts inject toxic substances into the body of the prey. So you must have heard of jellyfish poisoning, that jellyfish stings the body of any human beings entering the water. You must have heard about it. So what is present in this jellyfish? Around the mouth of the jellyfish, there are special organs which are present, which are called as tentacles, and these tentacles have special organs called as cnidoblast. The cnidoblast contains certain poisonous substances within itself. So whenever there is any harm which they feel they are in danger, they will inject that poisonous substance into the body of prey or into the body of anything that they feel is harmful to them. The examples which are given in your textbook are Hydra, the first picture which is given over there, the green animal. Then Adamsia, you have Physalia and Aurelia, which is Aurelia is the other name for a jellyfish. And the last example is also corals. Corals also come under Cnidaria. The next phylum that we look at is phylum Platyhelminthes. Now, if you look at the pictures that I've put up over here, there are 3 pictures put up. The very first one on the top is Planaria. Then at the side, at your right hand side, the picture is of a liver fluke, and at the bottom you see that tape like structure, that is a tapeworm. Okay, so looking at these 3 pictures, you can very well make out that all these animals are very flat animals. Okay, so that's how they get the name Platyhelminthes, which means flat. Okay, so as I said, the body of these animals is slender, it's very thin and very flat. It looks like a flat leaf or a flat tape, a strip like substance. So that is the reason they are also called as flatworms. Now, most of these animals are endoparasites, means they live inside the body of other animals. Very few of them are free living and aquatic, means very few of these animals might be living separately outside the body of animals or in water, but most of them are endoparasites, which means that they live inside the body of other animals. The body is acoelomate and bilaterally symmetrical, and they are triploblastic, which means they have 3 germ layers: endoderm, ectoderm and mesoderm. These animals are hermaphrodite, which means that the male and the female reproductive systems are both present inside the same animal's body. Okay, we cannot say that this animal is a male or this animal is a female in Platyhelminthes. Each and every animal which is belonging to phylum Platyhelminthes, inside the body they have both male reproductive system as well as female reproductive system. The next phylum we look at is called as phylum Astelminthis. Now, if you look at these particular pictures, the first worm that you see, there are 2 worms on the top. First, there is a picture of that man with very swollen legs. Okay, next to that on the top you have a picture of a worm which is called as Ascaris. It is an intestinal worm, worms which are found in the intestines of animals. And the second one next to it is the worm Filaria. Okay, Filaria is a special worm which causes that type of swelling in that men which is over there. Okay, so that worm causes swelling of legs or swelling of the hands. And the third picture that you see of the eye, if you look very carefully, there is a worm which is present in the eye of in that picture. That worm is called as a eye worm, or it is called as a loa loa. Okay, that's the name of that worm. So let us understand the properties of the animals found in phylum Astelminthis. The body of these animals is long, thread-like and cylindrical. Hence, they are also called as roundworms. Okay, please understand the difference. In Platyhelminthes, we have flatworms, and in Astelminthis, we have roundworms. Okay. These animals are either free-living or endoparasites. They might either live on their own or they may be endoparasites, that is, they live inside the body of other animals. The free living animals, the ones which do not live inside the body of other animals, they are either aquatic or terrestrial. They may be found either in the water or on the land. Then these animals are triploblastic and pseudocoelomate, means they do not have they have a false cavity. It is not a true cavity. Then these animals are non-segmented. There is no segments present on their body, and they are covered with a tough cuticle. Outside the body there is a tough shell-like structure. If you try to press these animals, you cannot press them very easily because they are surrounded by a thick, tough cuticle. These animals are unisexual, means the male worms are separate and the female worms are separate. And just a reminder about the examples given in the textbook, you have Ascaris, filarial worm, and Loa loa worm, which is the eye worm. Next, we move on to phylum Annelida. The body of these animals is long, cylindrical, and metamerically segmented, means they are also like worms, but they have segments present on their body. In Ascalmentis, the body was smooth. They did not have any segments. But in Annelida, the special property of these animals is that their body is segmented. If you look at these three diagrams, these three pictures given over here, you see those small round structures which are present entirely on their body. So those are segments. Most of these animals are free living. They live on their own outside the body of other organisms, but very few may be ectoparasites. Please understand, now I am saying the word ectoparasites, means they are not found inside the body of other organisms, but they may be present outside on the skin of the other living organisms. Okay. If you look at this picture over here, the first picture which I have put up is a picture of a leech. Okay, you see the mouth of the leech is stuck on the hand of that particular person over there. Okay, so they do not live inside the body, but they will live outside the body, stuck onto other living organisms. Now, the free living animals may be either marine, that is, they may live in salt water, or they may live in fresh water, or they might even be present on land. For example, your earthworms are found on land. These animals are triploblastic, they have bilateral symmetry, and they are eucoelomate. They have setae or parapodia or suckers for locomotion. They do not have any legs as such. You don't call it as legs. The organs of their locomotion is either called as a setae, parapodia, or suckers. Their body is covered by a special cuticle. Next, we move on to phylum Arthropoda. Now, this is the most well-known phylum, and the animals which are present in this particular phylum is very, very huge. This is one of the largest phylum, and it has the most highly successful animals in the animal kingdom. These animals have been living from many, many years, and they have been very, very successfully living on the earth. These animals have jointed appendages. If you have seen a spider or a cockroach very closely, or a honeybee or a mosquito or a scorpion for that matter, or even a butterfly or a crab, okay, these are all the pictures which I have put up over here. If you look at their legs, the legs are not attached as one structure. They are attached as tiny structures which are joined together. So that is why they are said that they have jointed appendages, and that is the reason they are called as arthropods. These animals are found in almost all habitats. You can find them in the forest, you can find them in the deserts, you can find them where there is snow, you can find them where there is heavy rainfall. there is no habitat which is a obstacle for this particular animals. You can find arthropoda animals anywhere on the earth. Now the body of these animals are triploblastic, they are eucoelomate, bilateral symmetry is shown, and some of them are even segmented. There are segments which may be present on their body. The exoskeleton is made up of a special substance called as chitin. These animals are unisexual, that is, they may be either males or they may be females. So some of the examples which are given in your textbook and the pictures that I've put up over here, you have crabs, spiders, scorpions, millipedes, centipedes, cockroaches, butterflies, honeybee, etc. So these are the different animals, and there are many more which are present in the phylum Arthropoda. Next we move on to phylum Mollusca. The body of these animals is soft and slimy. It's very sticky. That is the reason they are called as mollusks or phylum Mollusca. If you look at the pictures which I have put over here, the very first one, the pink animal over there is an octopus. Then on the top you see that shell structure that is called as a bivalve. Many of you all who love fishes must have eaten this. It's also called as Tisrio, I guess, something like that. So it's in English it's called as a bivalve. And at the bottom you have a snail. These are the three examples given in your textbook. Now this is the second largest phylum in the animal kingdom. Okay, the first one is what we have just discussed, that is your Arthropoda, that's the first largest, and the second largest is Mollusca. These animals are aquatic or terrestrial. They are found either in water or on the land. Most of the aquatic mollusks are marine, but very few are also found in fresh water. Most of them live in salty water, but some of them, very few of them, are even found in fresh water. The body of these animals are triploblastic, eucoelomate, non-segmented. There are no segments found on the body, and the body is very soft. Now, except for animals like the snail, their body shows bilateral symmetry. Okay, except a snail, the snail does not show bilateral symmetry. The other examples in this particular phylum show bilateral symmetry. Their body can be divided into head, foot, and visceral mass. Okay, the visceral mass is covered by a mantle, and it secretes a very hard calcareous shell. There is a shell present in many of the animals which are present in this particular phylum, and this shell may be either external or internal, and in some cases it might even be absent. For example, in an octopus, the octopus does not have any shell. Okay, so it is absent in case of a octopus. And these animals are unisexual, that is, the males are separate, females are separate. The next phylum that we move on to is phylum Echinodermata. Now, in Echinodermata, there are calcareous spiny structures which are found on the body of these animals. That is the reason they are called as echinoderms. They are called as echinoderms. These animals are found only in the ocean. They are not found in fresh water. They are found only in the ocean. Their bodies are triploblastic, eucoelomate, and they show radial symmetry in adult stage. When they are in a smaller stage, that is in a larvae stage, they can show bilateral symmetry, but when they reach their adult stage, they show radial symmetry. They perform locomotion with the help of tube feet, which are also used for capturing the prey. They have a certain feet like structure, so that is used for movement, and that is also used for capturing their food. Now, some of the animals are sedentary, that is, they do not move from one place to another, they just remain attached onto one place. They have a skeleton made up of calcareous spines, or also called as ossicles. It might be spiny or it might be in the form of a thick plate. So it can either have spines or it can have this plate like structure surrounding their body. Now, these animals have a very good ability of regeneration. If you cut a starfish, the very last example given in this particular picture, that orange color star, it's a starfish. So it is said that if you cut the starfish into 2 or 3 pieces, each of that piece will regenerate into a new starfish. So the animals present in Echinodermata show excellent property of regeneration. And these animals are mostly unisexual, that is, male separate, female separate. So the examples which are given over here are starfish, the orange picture that you see, the star like structure over there, it's a starfish. Then you have a sea urchin, the pink spiny ball like structure, that is your sea urchin. Then you have a brittle star. The above the starfish you have that cute polka dot, pink polka dot looking like animal, so that is called as a brittle star. And sea cucumber, the red spooky looking animal over there, it's a sea cucumber. So these are the examples given in your textbook. Now we move on to the next phylum, which is phylum Hemichordata. The body of these animals are divided into 3 parts, which are called as proboscis, collar, and the trunk. Okay, if you go through your textbook, you will see a picture of a animal which is called as a Melanoglossus. So the example shows clearly what is a proboscis, what is a collar, and what is the trunk part of the animal. Now, notochord is present in the proboscis region only. The notochord, which we learnt about in the first lecture, in Hemichordata, the notochord is present only in the proboscis region of the animal. Hence, they are called as hemichordates. Now, these animals are also called as acorn worms. One of the other name by which they are famous is called as acorn worms. They are marine animals, or they may live in burrows in the sand. Some of them are marine, they live in salt water, and some of them dig holes in the sand and live over there. They have one or many pharyngeal gills for breathing. They do not have lungs, they have gills for the process of respiration. They are unisexual, most of them are unisexual, but some of them may even be hermaphrodite, wherein male and female reproductive organs are present inside the same animal. Okay, so the first example, which is the first picture of the animal which is there in this slide, is of a Melanoglossus, and the second picture, that orange looking structure which is looking like a spring over there, the second one is of a Sarcoglossus. Next we have phylum Chordata, and Chordata is divided into three subphylums: subphylum Urochordata, subphylum Cephalochordata, and subphylum Vertebrata, or which is also called as Craniata. Okay, so your phylum Chordata has 3 subphylums: Urochordata, Cephalochordata, and Vertebrata. Today we will complete Urochordata and Cephalochordata. Vertebrata we will complete in our next lecture. So first let us look at the properties of chordata. These animals have a supporting notochord. There is a notochord present inside their body, and this notochord is present in the body during at least one stage of its development. So it's not required that this notochord is present throughout the entire life of that organism, but at any one stage of its development the notochord is present. They have gill slits which are present during at least one time of development in their life. Okay. There is a single tubular spinal cord which is present on the dorsal side, and the heart is present on the ventral side. These are the four properties of phylum Chordata. So now we will look at subphylum Urochordata and subphylum Cephalochordata. Okay, so now let us have a look at subphylum Urochordata. The two pictures which are there over there, the first one, that pink weird looking animal over there, is called as a Herdmania, and the second picture is of these shell like structured animals. So you must have collected these shells on the beaches. It is found along the western coast of India. These animals are called as Doliolum. Okay, so the first picture is of a Herdmania and the second one is of a Doliolum. Now let us look at the properties. These animals are marine animals found in salty water. Their body is covered by a skin-like tunic. It looks like a artificial skin which is present on top of their body. The larvae of these animals freely swim in the water, and there is a notochord which is present only in the tail region of the larvae. Hence they are called as Urochordata. When they are in the larvae stage, at that time only in the tail region the notochord is present. These larvae, when they become big, they metamorphosize into adults after settling down at the bottom of the sea. So these animals, when they become adults, you will not find them swimming freely in the water, but instead they will settle down at the bottom of the sea or at the bottom of the ocean. And these animals are usually hermaphrodite, which means male and female sexual organs are present inside the same organism. Now we look at the last slide for today, which is subphylum Cephalochordata. The example which is given in your textbook is Amphioxus. These are small fish-like marine animals. They are very small in structure. They look like fishes, but they are not true fishes. They only look like fishes, and they are marine animals, which means they are found in salty water. The notochord is present throughout the length of the body, and pharynx is very large and contains gill slits. Gill slits are present for the process of respiration, and these animals are unisexual, means male separate, female separate. Okay. So students, that is all that we have time for in today's lecture. I know we have covered quite a lot, but it was required, and you just have to know the names of the different phylums and the names of the different examples present in the phylum and their basic properties, and that is good to go for all these different phylums and subphylums. Okay, so till we meet in the next lecture, stay safe, stay happy, bye.